Hello and welcome to the festive edition of the Crafty Little Rat podcast. My name's Hannah, also known as Crafty Little Rat on Ravelry and Instagram, and this is my knitting podcast, full of knitting, a little bit of crochet, the odd bit of spinning, weaving, all of those sorts of things. Today is the 19th of December, where I'm sat in front of with it behind me, the festive Christmas tree in our house. So I haven't podcasted in ages. It is 7:10 in the morning because I'm running out of time to podcast before everything kicks off Christmas. But I thought, you know what, I want to do something and now is the time. So this may make even less sense than my ordinary podcasts because, you know, they don't normally make a huge amount of sense. And it is super duper early in the morning, so forgive me, let's work through some things. Okay, so just pulling some knitting there, thinking, oh yeah, no, that's my knitting. It's not. It's knitted tree skirt that I made a couple of years ago. Can't show you that one. Okay, right, FO Frenzy. I've got a big, huge pile here that you can just see if I move my arm of things that I've completed. So, let's dig into that. So FO Frenzy is always my first section. This is always things that I have completed. There we go. And I've got a list this time of things I want to talk about with you guys. So it's going to be a really quick whistle-stop tour. I've got to be in work in about an hour and a half. So anyway, here we go. Fiesta socks. This is a pair of socks. I've been knitting socks like Billio again. So this is a pair of socks in Patterns Croy, and the colourway for these is Mexicala Stripes. It is a pair, because there's two. Now you can't see very well on here, but possibly you can if I hold this one up. The heel is a Fish Lips Kiss heel, but I ribbed it. I did it with Knit One Purl One rib, so it's very sort of stretchy. And we'll see, I sort of wanted it with the intention of whether it hugs the foot better. There'll be a lot of part yawning in this episode, I apologise. But with the intention to see whether it hugs the foot better. I did it on the bottom. I made these toe up. So I did it on the bottom as well as on the top. And I'm not entirely sure how that will feel underfoot. Like all of my makes, I don't usually wear them until after I've podcasted them. So some of these have been off the needle a while, and I really, really want to show you guys them so I can start wearing them. But I'll report back with how that actually feels underneath the foot. If not next time, maybe I would move to a system where I only ribbed the top half, or rather ribbed the bit that's on the back of the foot instead. But we'll see how they work. I mean, you know, I am quite adventurous with my socks. I do like to sort of keep trying out new techniques to see whether they work. Those were a 2.5mm needle, because that's what I use for Patterns Croy, because it's a slightly thicker sock yarn. Right, Christmas light socks. Again, just bear with me while I pop at least one of these on a blocker. These are my Christmas light socks. The yarn is Cascade Heritage, number 25 lights. And again, this is a slightly thicker sock yarn, so I used a 2.5mm needle for these. So the pattern for these, it's my ordinary sock pattern. So for a sock on 2.5mm, I used 64 stitches. I did use a slightly different heel flap on these though. The heel flap I used for these is one from Winnick Mum, which is the new one that came with the West Yorkshire Spinners Candy Cane yarn leaflet. So you can't really see there, but it's a ribbed, it is a ribbed heel flap. So again, this may sort of cling to the heel better. Traditional gusset down the side, and then a traditional toe as well. So these are my Christmas lights socks. So the colourway is lights. I don't necessarily think it's Christmas lights, but I don't know, I quite like them. I think they're quite funky. Again, the colours aren't quite right. They're pink. It's a pink, not a red, and it's a purple on there as well, but it's showing up a little bit weird today. But that's probably because, even though I've got all of the lights in the room on, it is still 7 o'clock in the morning. Right, whizzing through these. So the other ones I have done are some my Bright Side socks. So this was yarn by Truly Hooked, which I bought last year. It was a kit, not a kit, a yarn box. I did show off on the blog. It was a Monty Python themed yarn box. These are on 2.25mm needles. Yeah, and just my normal sock pattern. So a standard 68, which is my new go-to size for 2.25mm socks. That's one. Where's the other one gone? There he is. Yeah, so 2.25, which is my standard go-to sock for ordinary thinner sock yarn. 68 stitches, standard top-down construction, 20 rows of rib, leg for long enough, ordinary slip stitch heel flap, and then a side decrease gusset and a normal side decrease toe as well. So this is Bright Side from the Monty Python colourways. The colours are actually pretty close, but yeah, I really like these. They're very, very bright and very, very interesting socks. And Truly Hooked yarn is always very, very nice to work with. I made a couple of things this year. I made those, and I made the Stephen West Doodler shawl as well out of Truly Hooked yarn this year. The world. So I don't know how well this is actually going to work because it's very, very big. And my screen, as you can see, is not very big, and if I lean much further back, I'm actually in the Christmas tree. But pictures of all of these, better pictures, not at 7 o'clock in the morning, light, are up on my Ravelry page. Or if they're not, they will be. This is my Shapey's Whirl shawl. So as you can sort of not see, it's ginormous. Well, I'm sure you can see that it's ginormous. It's a sort of a semicircular shawl shape, and you can see it goes through the colourways from the sort of the pink, where I did a little sort of feather and fan-esque edging, through to the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, and then finally through to purple. So this I used a 3mm needle and the one skein of Shapey's Whirl. I ended up with a very, very close towards the end. On the bind off, I ended up with just a few stitches left to bind off and not very much yarn. But I won at Yarn Chicken, and it blocked wonderfully. And I think I would use the Shapey's Whirl again at some point. But there is just so much knitting involved in it because it's 1,000 meters of yarn. You know, it's a lot to get through. Right, what else? So as part of the Knit Tea retreat, there is a knit along for Anakin Alice's patterns. So from that I chose to make Persephone. Now, I did not check my gauge, because it's a shawl, right? And who checks gauges on shawls? Well, obviously I should have done. So it is definitely more of a scarflet. It's fine, I like it, I will use it. It's great for going underneath a coat. Most of these shawls have had a little bit of use already. So it's great just for that tiny little, using it more as a sort of an open-ended cowl than anything else. But yes, it is tiny because I did not check my gauge. I should have gone up a needle size at least in order to make a slightly bigger shawl, or I should have worked out how to increase the pattern repeats. But yeah, it's a really unique sort of construction with these giant eyelets, and I really enjoyed doing it. So the yarn is the main colour with the blues and the reds is Owl About Yarn Comfy Owl. Happy Owl, even. She says put your thing up. It's Happy Owl in the colourway 10th Doctor. And then the other yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature Yarn in Butterscotch. and I used a 3.5mm there, but I should have gone up to a 4.5, maybe gone up a 4mm size, but never mind, it's fine, it works. Right side sock spell feels shawl. So I participated in another knit along while I was away from you guys. This is the Bells Feels shawl. So one of the branches has come off the tree. It's a fake tree. I don't know quite how that's happened, but there we go. Oh, never mind. It's Christmas. So this is the Bells Feels shawl. So I altered it in order to make it a symmetrical shape rather than the asymmetrical shape the pattern comes with. And I've used a couple of little buttons here, just ones that I picked up from a craft shop, in order to just sort of have the option of fastening it. So I didn't do my maths incredibly well, and it was with hand spun yarn, which is never particularly exact with yardage, especially mine. So I increased a little bit too far, carried on a little bit straight a little bit too far, and ended up running out a bit on the decrease points. But she says, now trying to find out which was the decrease points. That side, I think. So that side just sort of stops and becomes a bit of a garter tab. So I wasn't horribly far off with the decreases, but you know, it's still fine. So this is porpoise fur fibre that I spun in the Golden Mean colourway. And I love it. How beautiful is this? So this is one of my favourite things, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it a bit more sort of shortly. And I love the little edging thing. I would definitely do this pattern again. I think what I would do is I would work up 2 pieces and then graft them in the middle. That way, definitely going to have a proper sort of a symmetrical sort of looking shawl. Second to last thing, I think, looking at this, it's not easy when everything's just in a giant pile behind me, is it? But hey ho. I had leftovers from the Persephone shawl, so I made myself a sock head hat. So I've been after these, looking at these for a while. They're a very, very slouchy hat, as you can see, and that's with the rib. It's with the rib turned up. So they're a very long hat with a lot of slouch in it, but I often wear my hair in a ponytail, sort of a low ponytail. So it's ideal for me because they're slightly looser, but the long rib keeps things on. So it's quite nice to be able to have a hat that I can wear with having my hair up. I didn't make it as long as the pattern suggests. Again, this is West Yorkshire Spinners signature in butterscotch, and then Happy Owl in 10th Doctor. Both of these were, the Owl About yarn was a present from Angie for my birthday, so I really, really wanted to make sure that I used that one up as well. I didn't want it just sat in my stash, overflowing in my stash. So yeah, I really like this. It's yeah, really fun. It's had quite a bit of wear already, actually, this one. Cool, awesome. Last finished thing to show you is a dragon hat. So I haven't got the actual dragon hat here, so I'm going to show you. This is one I made earlier. This is Reese's one. I made him a couple of years ago. He's a dragon. Let's look at his face. His face is a bit lopsided after a couple of years of love and wearing him. So we had a charity auction in work. This pattern is by Brie Abbey. Oh, sorry, the sock head hat was by Kelly McClure. Free pattern on Ravelry. 3mm needles. So this is the dragon hat by Brie Abbey. So it is a paid for pattern, but it's a very good pattern. There's lots of bits in order to sew on, and lots of bits to do. But I made one for charity. So we were raising money. They were raising money for charity in work, and I donated this as part of the raffle. So they raised over £300, and I said I'd make one in the person's choice of colours, and size. So somebody ordered one for their grandson, which I whipped up this weekend. This shouldn't be a weekend job, right? It's a very, very long process for me, these hats. They take a heck of a lot of time. But I wanted to get it to her in time for Christmas. I wasn't sure whether I'd said she could have it for Christmas or not. So I panicked and then just crocheted for the entire weekend. Which means that I'm behind with everything else in my life. Which is why I'm podcasting at like 7:30 in the morning. But there we go. Okay. So that's finishes the very fastest ever whip through of FO Frenzy, I think. 15 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bits. So I know it's been super quick, but if you want more details, they are available on my Ravelry page, and I am CraftyLittleRat on Ravelry. Okay, so next is, I'm trying to avoid having my legs go to sleep, which is not working very, very well. So next is, find out where's next. Next is, you're still working on that, which is current works in progress. So currently, works in progress are my advent calendar socks. So I will show you this bundle, which does not look particularly advertising at the moment. So this is sock number 2. You can see I've passed the heel and I'm working on down the foot. So, might look like a bit of a weird blob at the moment, but let me show you the first one. So this is sock number 1, all finished. So I have a knitted advent calendar this year, which means that I get 24 little mini skeins. I think my kit has 25. 24 little mini skeins. I work them up each day, and then it's a sort of an advent calendar countdown till Christmas. So for these, she says, I always hold that the wrong way, because there's like the 2 greens in there. So for this, for the cuffs, heels and toes, I'm using West Yorkshire Spinners signature yarn in chocolate lime. The first tier here is actually that's West Yorkshire Spinners Candy Cane, and then the remainder of them are the Advent mini skeins. So each triangle is a new skein until you get down, heel and then toe. So those are by Stardust Homemade Crafts, and the triangle socks are by Laura Fallon. So the reason why these the first tier is in a separate colour is because that made my maths work with 24. Because, contrary to popular belief, there are not 26 days in Advent. So these are in 2.5mm needles. I used a slightly larger size, 2.25. I used 2.5 for the rib and that first tier in order to get me a bit more sort of space. Fish Lips Kiss heel, and just my sort of standard toe. So I thought that the second sock was working up more variegated than the first, but it's not true, I don't think. There seem to be more solids in the first one. Not that it really matters, because they're very, very scrappy socks. Anyway, and oh my god, they have so many ends to weave in. I'm actually a bit behind, because I've been so busy these last couple of days. But I'm working on yesterday's, and then I'll pop today's in when I get home. If I have chance when I get home from work. These are coming up with me to my parents, so it's not as if I can't catch up while I'm there. Quickly take a short break because my leg is approximately dying of pins and needles at the moment, so be back shortly. Okay, let's try again. So I've moved you back a bit so that you get a bit of a better view. And of course I didn't have to cough until I hit record, because that's just what my life is at the moment. First world problems, definitely. So back into FO Frenzy. So obviously while I've been having these minis, I've been working some more on my scrappy blanket. So I've been adding in the minis every day. Luckily each mini gives me enough to do 1 round on my socks and also a square on my blanket. So the blanket I'm using is the Knitted Patchwork Recipe by Martine Ellis, and I've been working on it since the start of the year. On and off. I'm trying to not duplicate scraps, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, here we go. Here are some of my new additions. So along this top row here, that I've yet to complete. That is the lights colourway. That is the festive, Mexicala stripes. And then here, starting here, that was day 1 of the Advent. And it keeps going all the way along there. So I haven't shown this in a while. Don't think I've taken many photographs in a while. I'll try and get a better one later on. But yeah, so this is all yarns, sock yarns that I've used. So the plan is, obviously all of my lines go diagonally that way. So the plan is that I'm going to make 4 panels that are this length. I think, is there 12 per segment? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm going to do 4 panels that are 12 by 12, each with the lines going in a different direction. Border them and then sew them together in order to create one very large. It'll be probably definitely a big double, whereas, you know, a double that sort of comes down the sides, not just a top, but like that comes down the sides of the bed, or possibly even a sort of a king sized blanket. Plan is that that will take many years. I'm not sure whether I brought it over. No, I did not, but I purchased some West Yorkshire Spinners signature yarn in black in order to start making these borders. So obviously at the moment, this doesn't have, this is the back side with, look, all of those ends to weave in. This is also coming up with, to me, with mothers, so I can start weaving some ends in afterwards. So obviously these squares don't yet have a border on them. So I'm going to have to work out how I want to do that. So there is a way you can add on squares afterwards, which I will maybe make a little video tutorial for people who want that, because I couldn't find anything online. I've got to check out to see whether my progress actually works on here, but it did work on a scrap square that I used. We'll see. But anyway, once I've added on, so this Christmas, let's say, yeah, definitely for sure, I shouldn't finish this row, I don't think. So that was like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, okay, I might do 21, 22, 23, 24. But then after I've completed these, I will start to add the black in. After the black's added in around the edges in the fiddly way, I will start to add it in the normal way. And then the next blanket I make will start with the black border already there. So it won't be a sort of a thing at the end to do. But yeah, I really like this. I'm really looking forward to being able to actually sort of get, should be nearly there with this first one. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the first, 9 rows and 12 columns. So I will definitely finish 10 by Christmas because of the advent calendar. So then just, yeah, 2 more rows to go. And then the first section is done, and there's 4. So this has taken me the full year because of, not because of how long it takes to knit, but because of how long it takes to gather the scraps together. And this, I had a lot of pre-existing scraps. So I'm imagining that the next 3 segments might be 2 years per square. But we'll see. Advent calendars, speed it up because you've got at least 24 squares in there. Okay, Advent triangle socks, scrappy blanket, fruit gums, striped socks. So I am knitting another pair of socks sort of on the go at the moment. These are the Fruit Gum Striped Socks by Leah Oakley, and I'm using the West Yorkshire Spinners signature sock in Candy Cane. So as you can see, it's a spiral rib. She says, I'm not sure why it's got a stitch marker in there. Ah, I know, I was counting the amount of colour changes that I had. There we go. So it's got a spiral rib on the top, and then the foot is just plain. So I thought about expanding the spiral rib down on half the stitches, but then of course realised that because it's a spiral rib, it biases the fabric. So when I start socks, I always work a couple of rows flat in order to not twist when I join in the round. And then I use the tail to sew it up. So here you can see the evidence of that, a couple of rows flat, little tail ready to tuck in and just sew those bits up. So that's where I that is obviously always stays where you started the round, apart from, and that is where I started the round, apart from that had moved as the sock had spiralled and biased. As the fabric had biased because of the spirals in the sock, you see now how that is now more sort of central in the sock rather than to the side where it should be. So yeah, so definitely couldn't continue it down onto the foot without doing some fancy footwork, pun slightly intended, on the bottom. But anyway, plain socks are fine. It's a normal slip stitch heel. It's a round heel turn. But then where the magic happens is where I really should have put it on a blocker. Still using my very, very cheap blockers that I made out of some corrugated board when I moved in here about 5 years ago. One day I will buy fancier blockers. Today is not that day. Yeah, I don't even know how well it's going to show up on here because of the way the blockers are on the bottom of the foot. No. Okay. So I used a double gusset decrease, and these are situated on the bottom of the foot. So this was my first time doing this. So here, if I stretch that out, can you see how there's two lines that decrease down? So one there and one there. So it takes the heel cap. So it takes the heel cap and decreases it down to here, and then there's another little decrease up there. Jury is still out on how well this fits. Jury is still out on whether I actually did it right this first time. But you know, I can see mechanically how it works. Ah, there we go, that's better. If I fold it flat, you can see that there's two. One finishes there and one finishes there. So again, another thing that's worth a try, and it means that the side of your sock there, that's just where it's been folded. There's actually no gusset decreases down the side of the sock. First sock, done. Second sock, here. God, so disorganised this morning. Apologies. This is why I don't normally podcast at 7 AM. This is why I don't normally podcast. Second sock, heel done. Just doing the decreases for the gussets, and you can see my markers in there. So the pink ones are for the first gusset, so I decrease with those every other round like an ordinary gusset, and then the second ones, the green ones, are for the secondary gusset, which waits until that first gusset has been decreased. So yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting these. It's a simple one row pattern. It is a paid for pattern, but you do get a new heel, probably new to you heel in there, and I think a new to you toe, but I stopped reading and ignored those and went with what I wanted to try instead. Because, you know, obviously I know best. My last knit has been my car knit, because it's very, very quick and easy to do. So I've started a new hat. This is in West Yorkshire Spinners again. I don't have a thing for West Yorkshire Spinners. What are you talking about? Oops, she says that's the way with the label in it. So this is West Yorkshire Spinners, Blue Face Leicester Aran Prince, and the colourway for this is Blue Tit. So I think I'm actually at the decreases. I need to have a bit of a measure of the hat to see, but I'm sure I should be up to the decreases by now. So this is, yes, it's Aran weight. It's very different to me because obviously, as you can see, everything that I've knitted here, the heaviest is, the heaviest I used some Aran for the hat, but normally the heaviest I go is DK. And even then, not horrendously often. So Aran was a bit of a change for me. These giant needles are 5mm needles, so not that giant, I know, but they're giant to me. But yeah, it's been good fun, and a nice sort of easy, quick hat. And the ability to knit, I've just knitted this in the round completely. So it's been sort of an easy one to pick up. Oh yeah, I need to do decreases, don't I? Because even if I fold that rib back, yeah, if I fold the rib up, I might need a little bit longer. I like folding the rib up because it keeps my ears even warmer, and my ears hurt in the cold, so I might do a little bit more. Didn't really need to know that, but there we go. I've still got quite a bit of the ball left, so it's not going to hurt to have a slightly longer, slightly slouchier hat. And it means I don't have to think about working the decreases out. But yeah, I really like that. I like the way it's striped. I've got a pair of socks in blue tits and it always works up lovely. I like the way it works even though it's a larger hat, and I like the way it works with the rib as well as with the body, that there's not too much difference between the two. So that's it for FO Frenzy. I've got a couple of things. I've been trying to clear off my needles for Christmas. Last year and the year before, I did a competition called the Winter Camp with the Canadian knitter. My feet are going to sleep again. The Canadian knitter. And the premise of that was that everything, only things cast on from New Year's Eve, you could cast on one thing on New Year's Eve, and then it was things that were cast on from New Year's Day. They were the only things that counted in this 3-month competition. So I always had a bit of a rush to get FOs, to get whips even off the needles and into FOs before the new year started. This year that's not happening because various multitude of reasons, but it is probably good for the organisers that that's not happening. So I've got no real impetus to get stuff off the needles, but it's still a sort of a thing I want to do. So I've bought only a couple of little bits of stash since I last spoke to you guys, but I'm trying to concentrate on working down my stash in 2018. We'll see how it goes. I know I said this for 2017, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So when I ordered the black yarn for the blanket, I couldn't just order black yarn, so I had to order something else. So I ordered this. So this is Lana Grossa, Milen weight, which I'm assuming is middleweight. So this is actually a cotton stretch wool. So it's got wool, cotton, polyamide, and then Elite, which I don't know what Elite is, but there we go. So it's a cotton sock yarn, and it's really nice. It's really quite stretchy, but my sister really likes cotton socks, so I'm going to hopefully make that into a pair for her. But mainly because I wanted to try a new yarn to me, and I couldn't face just ordering black yarn. That's a bit boring. I ordered this a while ago, but this came through from my friend in Canada, because that way she sends us a Christmas parcel every year. Rather than have to pay customs duty on it to bring it into the UK, she popped it in the parcel for me. So this is some ancient arch yarns, sock nado, fingering sock, and the colourway for this one is called I Met Stephen West and I Liked It. I couldn't resist the colours, so I ordered this a while ago, maybe back in October, but it finally arrived because of the Christmas parcel. Yay! So a really fancy pair of socks, I think, out of that is on the radar. Also, somebody I work with gave me some handspun. So this is handspun Shetland from my co-worker who's just started learning how to spin. So I'm really looking forward to trying to find something to do with that in the new year. I'm thinking a hat that's possibly a top-down hat, so that if I run out I can use a contrasting for the brim. I like hats at the moment, evidently. I don't wear them very, very often, but I do like knitting them. What else? That's it. That's it for stash enhancement. Like, probably not, but everything else is probably packed away somewhere instead. So we go up to my parents on Thursday. It is Tuesday today. We go up Thursday morning. I haven't packed. I haven't wound my yarn. I haven't done, obviously that's more important, a whole host of things that I have to do. I've got a list as long as my arm of things to do. So I'm going to keep this a little bit short and sweet. I'm hoping to podcast a bit more in the new year because this is obviously a very intermittent podcast at the moment, and I do enjoy sitting down and talking with you guys and rambling on a little bit about my life. Big year for us next year, as we've sort of said, lots of different things going on, so it'd be nice in order to have a sort of a record of that and to share that with you guys. So I hope that you're all going to have a lovely few days off over Christmas, if you celebrate or even if you don't, and I hope that you know, get to spend some time with family or friends or whatever it is you want to do for this time of year, and most importantly I hope you get some knitting or spinning or sewing or crochet into that time, and I hope you get some lovely things if you celebrate Christmas. Have a really lovely time. I will see you in the new year. Bye.